Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a deeply important topic, one that's honestly touching almost every family, classroom, and community right now. We are talking about the invisible psychological toll that social media comparison takes on our teens, and more importantly, how we can actually help them. We all see our kids staring at their screens, right? But what we don't always see is the incredibly heavy emotional weight they're carrying behind that glass. So today, we're going to look at the powerful forces at play here. We'll be focusing specifically on the intense appearance pressure that so many teens, and especially teen girls, face literally every single time they log on. We'll outline exactly what's happening under the hood, and then I'm going to equip you with a real-world, highly effective toolkit to navigate the whole shebang. Okay, let's dive into this. Why does a simple act like scrolling through a feed leave so many braid-capable teens feeling just utterly inadequate? If you've ever watched a teen's mood completely tank after maybe 5 minutes on their phone, well, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And listen, you are absolutely validated in your concern about the invisible emotional harm happening behind the screen. It's real. We so often just tell them, hey, don't let it get to you, or remember, it's not real life. But as the data clearly shows us, those simple little reminders just aren't working. To understand why, we really have to look at the mechanics of both the adolescent mind and the platforms themselves. Because right now, we are witnessing a completely unmatched collision. It's like a giant tug of war. On one side, you have the vulnerable developing teen brain. During adolescence, the part of the brain that seeks out rewards and peer approval is intensely strong, while the part that controls impulses and self-regulation, well, that's still very much under construction. And on the other side of this tug of war, you have the engagement loop. We're talking infinite scrolls without any natural stopping points, variable reward patterns that basically mimic slot machines, and highly sophisticated algorithms designed by the smartest engineers in the world to pull and keep human attention. When you put a vulnerable teen brain up against an infinite scroll designed to maximize engagement, expecting those teens to simply use their willpower to resist that digital pressure is frankly completely unrealistic. It is a fundamental structural mismatch. So, the absolutely crucial point is this. We have to fundamentally shift how we look at this crisis. This is not about blame. If your teen is struggling with anxiety, loss of sleep, or a plummeting sense of self-worth tied to their digital life, it is not because you're a bad parent. And it is certainly not because they're a weak kid. We need to completely remove shame from the equation here. What we're dealing with is a structural issue caused by incredibly powerful product design. The platforms are operating exactly as they were engineered to operate, maximizing time on site. Understanding this is the very first step toward actually helping our teens, because it takes them off the defensive and allows us to partner with them against the real issue. Now, where this highly engineered environment hits the hardest is in the realm of appearance and social comparison. We really need precise vocabulary to understand what our kids are experiencing, and one of the most critical terms to know right now is digital dysmorphia. So what is that? Well, it happens when constant, relentless comparison blurs a teen's sense of reality. They begin to obsess over perceived, microscopic flaws in their appearance that no one else can even see. And this isn't just everyday vanity, okay? It is an intense, distressing distortion of self-image, and it's heavily driven by the impossible, filtered digital standards they are exposed to hundreds of times a day. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of the impact we're seeing, particularly the body image tax on teen girls. For nearly 1 in 3 girls, interacting with platforms like Instagram is a direct hit to their self-esteem. It makes them feel significantly worse about their own bodies. And this is largely fueled by the no-filter lie. Teens are scrolling through feeds of peers with seemingly perfect faces and bodies, often tagged no filter, when in reality, those images are the product of heavy, sophisticated edits. It creates a deeply dishonest standard. It leaves young girls feeling totally hopeless about their natural appearance, and it pushes them to use heavy filters on their own photos, focusing entirely on digital perfection rather than real-world connection. The hardest part for parents and educators is that teens rarely come up to us and say, hey, I'm currently experiencing immense psychological strain due to upward social comparison and filtered images, right? They just don't have the words for it. Instead, internal harm shows up as external symptoms. The distress manifests as observable behavior signals. So, if we want to catch this before it deeply impacts their mental health, we have to stop waiting for them to confess their struggles and start watching their behavior. So, what exactly are we looking for? Well, here's how you spot the warning signs of comparison stress. Listen for an increase in that everyone looks perfect talk. Watch for visible irritability or sadness immediately after they've been scrolling through appearance-heavy content. Notice if they're kind of stuck in comparison spirals, obsessively checking other people's profiles. More severe red flags include sudden, drastic changes in their real-world diet or exercise routines, or a newfound refusal to be in candid family photos because they can't control the angle or the filter, and ultimately, real-life social withdrawal. When the digital pressure gets too high, many teens simply isolate themselves in their rooms, choosing the exhaustion of screen time over the vulnerability of real-life connection. Social media first aid, triage for digital distress. Think about it like this. If a kid scrapes their knee, you don't ban them from riding a bike forever, right? No, you apply a bandage. We need that exact same logic for their digital lives. The foundational concept of social media first aid is shifting your role from the social media police to what is called a pause point. Social media is designed to evoke rapid, emotional reactions. The algorithms want you to immediately like, share, comment, or feel inadequate and just keep scrolling. When you become a pause point, your only job is to interrupt that automatic engagement loop. You don't have to debate the content, you don't have to fix the internet, you just have to triage the digital bleeding by creating a moment of intentional friction. Let's move to and see how this builds into an incredibly practical framework that you can literally use today. When you see your teen getting overwhelmed, you walk them through these steps. First, notice the signal, that mood shift or withdrawal we just talked about. Second, create a deliberate pause. Literally just put the phone face down for 30 seconds. Break the autopilot. Third, name the pattern. Help them articulate what's happening. Say something like, "It looks like you're caught in an appearance comparison loop right now." Just naming the emotional bait takes away so much of its invisible power. And fourth, make small adjustments. We aren't talking about throwing the phone in the ocean here. We're talking about muting an account that makes them feel bad or taking a 10-minute walk. Small, realistic interventions to stabilize the situation. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast between these two approaches, revealing why this is so revolutionary for families. When something goes wrong online, the immediate reflex for most parents is to reach for rules. Confiscate the phone, enact a ban, set rigid screen time limits. But here's the thing, rules don't inherently reduce harm. Safety and awareness do. A teen can experience intense body dysmorphia in just 10 minutes of scrolling, long before a screen time limit even kicks in. A safety-first approach focuses on early self-regulation. It acknowledges that teens are going to be online, and it prioritizes teaching them how to spot the quicksand themselves and step out of it safely without fear of being punished. I really want to leave you with this incredibly powerful summary from the Social Media Harm Reduction Framework. We don't need perfect control. We need safer patterns. Perfection is an absolute illusion, both in how we look online and in how we parent our kids' digital lives. If you're waiting until you have perfect control over your teen's tech, you're going to be waiting forever, and the anxiety is just going to exhaust you. But what we can do is build safer, more resilient patterns. We can teach them how to pause, how to critically question the filtered realities they're seeing, and ultimately, how to protect their own peace of mind. Which brings us to our final question for today's explainer. Think about your own digital habits and those of the teens you care about. The next time you see them scrolling and you notice their shoulders slump or their mood suddenly shift, the next time something clearly feels off, what are you going to do? Will you react out of fear and immediately reach for a rigid rule? Or will you empower them by helping to create a deliberate pause? Becoming a pause point might just be the absolute most vital skill we can teach this generation. Thank you so much for joining me today. Take a breath, take a pause, and I'll see you next time.